Welcome to our Inventors Patent Academy webinar series. We're so glad you've joined us for this discussion about how to create value from your patent with our guests, George Peters, Lexa Gandolfo, Aaron Kelly, and Ram Krishnan. For those of you who are new to the Inventors Patent Academy, it's a free online learning platform offering courses designed to provide inventors and entrepreneurs with the tools and resources needed for their innovation journey. The Academy currently offers 3 courses: Patent Essentials, an introduction to patenting, presenting key concepts from the full-length course, a comprehensive guide to patenting, a 3-module course that is a deep dive into IP protection, patent filing, and real-world experiences of inventors, and our newly launched Creating Value from Your Patents, designed to help entrepreneurs bring their invention to the marketplace. TIPA was created by patent holders, patent practitioners, and innovation experts including Aaron Kelly, Bernard Greenspan, and Sudeep Roy, with the help and insight of real inventors, patent holders, and entrepreneurs. The Academy is a collaboration between Invent Together and Qualcomm Incorporated, a global innovation leader with over 200,000 patents and applications worldwide. Today, we have the pleasure of discussing our newest course, Creating Value from Your Patents, with the creators and one of the featured inventors. Allow me to introduce you to our panelists for today's discussion. George Peters is an inventor, entrepreneur, and the president and CEO of New England Invents. New England Invents is a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and assisting independent inventors on their journey. George has been a guest speaker at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, Babson College, and a finalist on Shark Tank. He has been an independent inventor for more than 20 years, receiving his first patent on April 1st, 2003. Yes, April Fool's Day. Several of George's products and other products he has helped create have sold in more than 60 countries. Lexa Gandolfo has been working with inventors for over 7 years as an ambassador with the United Inventors Association and most recently as the executive director of New England Invents, the oldest and one of the most active inventor organizations in the U.S. Her passion for inventing and helping other inventors is grounded in her own experience bringing a patented product to market. She is the inventor of the Paca Cargo Caddy, a stowable trunk shelf that nearly doubles usable space in most SUVs, CUVs, and minivans. She licensed the product in May 2023, and it is now sold in stores across North America and online through major retailers such as Amazon and Walmart. Prior to her launching the above efforts, Lexa was the principal of 3210 Consulting, a website design and software development company she founded in 2002. She oversaw all business development and acted as the company's chief business analyst for the company's 65-plus small business clients. She sold the company after 11 years. Aaron Kelly is the founder of Hexalign, a consulting firm working to close the gap between innovation potential and commercialization opportunity for innovators at every stage and from every background. Hexalign's 2 service lines support inventors and entrepreneurs outside traditional pathways through education and training programs and help the institutions that control access to capital, networks, and markets build markets the practices and processes to serve the full range of American inventors. Her expertise is in strategy, program development, instructional design, bias mitigation, and process analysis and improvement as a researcher, practitioner, and policymaker. She previously worked at IBM as a senior change and learning consultant and at the National Women's Business Council as Director of Research and Policy. Ram Krishnan is Senior Director of Engineering at Qualcomm. Ram's tenure at Qualcomm spans over 3 decades, during which he played pivotal roles in various divisions. As a key leader in the modern chipset division, he contributed to pioneering the launch of the world's first 4G service. Later, Ram worked in Qualcomm's IP department, where he spearheaded the 5G intellectual property and patent portfolio development. Ram also served as a technology leader in Qualcomm's technology licensing group, where he was involved in major 5G handset license negotiations. Presently, Ram is a member of the Global Ecosystem Development Team within Qualcomm's Government Affairs Group, engaged IP and technology advocacy efforts globally with particular focus on U.S., India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East Africa regions. Having said that, I'll hand it off to the team.
Thanks so much, Stephanie, and thank you so much, Lexa and George, for joining us. Let's go back to the beginning. What problem were you trying to solve, and at what point did you think this needs to be protected? Lexa, let's start with you.
Sure. Thanks again to everyone. TIPA is a fantastic resource for all inventors and all entrepreneurs, really. So thank you to Qualcomm and Invent Together for putting this together. I'd say the time at which I thought, all right, this is something I need to get protected is when I decided to go beyond the napkin sketch phase and decided I'm going to work with CAD designers, prototypers, and others to get this into a physical form that I can then go and pitch in competitions and in front of, um, for me personally, potential licensees, because that's the way I brought Cargo Caddy to market. So that was the time at which I thought this is something that I need to get protected through a provisional patent. And that's the time at which I did it. And it helped me to have that lined up so I could hit the ground running and pitch this product right when the prototype was ready to go.
Great, thank you. George, how about you? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Um, and thank you, everybody. I'll repeat what Lexa said. Thank you to Qualcomm and Event Together for putting this all together. For me, quite some time ago, it was the simple idea of being able to put insect repellent on without spraying it in someone's eye, especially a child. And my wife, after enduring many, many years of me saying I have a great idea, finally looked at a prototype that I had created. She said, you know, I would use that and I would buy it. That was the moment that I knew that I had to get it protected because it was her validation of it, of being consumer. And finally, one of my ideas she thought was a good one enough to go through the patent process. That's how I got started.
Great, thank you. A lot of independent inventors file a patent without a clear plan for what comes next. What does having a patent actually get you, and what does it not get you if you haven't thought through the commercialization piece? George, let's start with you.
Okay. I think it validates you as being real when you receive your patent. It shows that you've gone through a process that when I started was not very easy to understand. I had to really fumble around to see what that process was. Thankfully, I found excellent legal help during that process. But I think that shows you're real to a lot of people. It gives you validation. What it doesn't show is that um, people have been under the false pretenses that it's automatically going to make you money. That is so far from the truth and with inventors that we help at New England Invents, we try to get them to understand that very quickly is that it does not mean that you are going to have commercial success. It sets a great legal footing for you. It'll get you in the door at places when someone asks. They usually ask you, did you have a good trip? And then you show them what you brought and they ask you, does that have a patent? And you say yes, they offer you a coffee. If you say that you have some sales from it, they might offer to take you to lunch after that. So they want to see that you have done all the kind of difficult steps, maybe leading up to that. But it does not guarantee any type of commercial success. It's just the very beginning of that.
Great, thank you. Lexa, do you want to add?
Sure. I mean, I'll echo what George said in that it's an important milestone and it's a huge accomplishment, but it really is sort of just the beginning as far as the commercialization process. And it doesn't get you market validation. It doesn't get you market research. It doesn't give you an understanding of what the market can bear in terms of price point. It doesn't, certainly in my case, didn't magically find me a licensee or even a list of licensees to target. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I don't want to say that it's not important because if you're licensing a product, you have to have intellectual property. It's not necessarily a starting point either. You don't have to wait to get the patent before you start the commercialization. You can do it at the same time. In fact, while you have a provisional filed and it's patent pending, that's the time to really pressure test the concept and see if there's a market for it. And that's the way I did it. And I think it's the way to go, because filing a utility patent is far more costly than a provisional one.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Um, there's a version of monetizing your patent that's purely about licensing fees or a big exit. But there's another way to think about it, that commercial success is really a signal that your solution is reaching people and solving their problem. So how do you think about that? What does success actually mean to you as an inventor? Lexa, let's start with you.
Sure. For me, it was, first off, are people buying it? People are buying it. That is, if someone's willing to take out their wallet and pay for something that you've created, that's not only a rush, but it's also a sign of success. Are stores reordering it? It's one thing if a store orders it the first time, but if they're reordering it, that shows that, wow, people really took to this and we want more of it. I would also say, are people positively reviewing it? So I love seeing reviews of Cargo Caddy online. In fact, one of the most exciting things for me to see of all the public reviews is the way in which they're using it in ways that I hadn't even anticipated. So your sort of your use cases expand as you see more and more product reviews, and the way you market your product continues to evolve well after you've gone to market.
So those use cases that surprise you, they're solving problems that you hadn't anticipated.
Yeah, if there's time, I can give it a few examples.
Great. I hope that we can come back to that. How about you,
Sure.
George?
It's the validation of what you've done for a long time. Other people besides your friends and family are buying it and using it. That's very important. You've now, and I've done products both ways. And as mentioned earlier, I followed, like Lexa says, the path along trying to get my product to market and going through the patent process at the same time. It was very risky. It's a high risk avenue that I did. But for someone who learns early on, you're going to come to a fork in the road about, do I license my intellectual property or do I make it myself and turn? I always ask people, is this a hobby or are you going to turn it into a career or a job? Very important distinction. So you still have to have a proof of concept for your product. If you're going to go to licensing, you're going to get many, many more questions about the possibility of somebody licensing your intellectual property than you just going your own and making some and putting them out there. Because that company that licenses your intellectual property is going to want to make sure that the patent is strong, that the potential for the market is there, and anything you can do to have them check off those boxes gives you a much better chance to have a product licensed early on. My first product, as I said, I went to market with it, made a big mistake in that I was offered a licensing agreement early on. I had the path between taking 25 cents each for my product or making them and making $2. I listened to some advice that said, oh, let's make these and make $2 from each one. Well, a year later, I'm the only one left standing in the room and the licensing deal is out the window. Very important that you look at that if someone's offering you that licensing, because they're going to do the difficult part of your product being successful, which is monetizing it, marketing it. Very critical that you get a partner that wants to do that early on. And if there is, I would always advise somebody to look at that deal very hard. I lost quite a bit not taking that option early on in my career.
Mm, mm. Important lesson learned. I'll pass it to you, Ram.
Yes, yeah. Hi, everyone. It's great to be in this panel. It's inspiring to hear George and Lexa. Congratulations, Lexa, on your patent and your product. Um, I heard you say, like, other people have found different ways of using your product that you didn't anticipate, and George said the same thing, that other people might be interested in using your patent, right? So that I feel is an important concept, that your patent is important when other people want to use that technology, right? And that's a valuable thing. But let's spend the next 10 to 12 minutes talking about the process, right? So I want to ask you folks a few questions here. Let's start with you, Lexa. Lexa, what did you not know when you filed your patent, and what did you really wish that someone had told you earlier?
I wish this was kind of this is an easy one for me. I wish somebody had impressed upon me the importance of designing for manufacturability. It's one thing to design something that works, that's unique and novel, that can be patented. It's quite another thing to design something and have it be something that a licensee or you yourself can manufacture at a cost that can then net you value, i.e., you can make money from it. My first patent, it was a product that was made out of aluminum and it had a number of different components that were involved, and I didn't realize until it was too late that it was far too expensive to manufacture. And when I presented it to licensees, I pitched it to licensees that this is a great product. We love it. We just cannot make it at a cost where we're going to make any money from it. So I had already filed a utility patent for that product. Now I filed what's called a continuation in part, and I kind of stripped down the product to its bare bones and redesigned it in ABS plastic and nylon backpack straps, and I made it really, really inexpensive to manufacture. And I could use parts of my old patent, but I had to kind of restart that whole process. So had I known all of that in advance, had I prototyped and iterated and made sure that I was going to my patent attorney with the so-called golden sample that I was ready to go to market with, then I would have saved myself a lot of time and money.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thanks, Lexa. George, what about you? Like, anything you wish someone had told you, or maybe you would tell someone, a new inventor?
My first patent attorney, I found him in Concord, New Hampshire. Walked into his office, which was the size of a little bigger than a closet, and he said to me right off the bat, he said, "This is going to be it's going to be difficult. You're probably not going to get a patent, and it's going to be very expensive." I was with my godfather, and he got up out of the chair and said, "Well, let's go. Why would you want to do something like this?" And I said, "Because it's what I've always wanted to do. I think I have something here." Gave him a check for $700, and then the journey began. What I didn't know, which he told me those things though. I didn't listen to him like I have try to help people now, saying some people give you very good advice that inventors get blinders on and want to go forward, and good advice just goes right by them. And I had gotten good advice that it was going to be expensive, and the only part that he was incorrect on is that I was awarded a patent. It did take me a long time. It was expensive, but I was awarded a patent, and it was, April 1st, 2003, April Fool's Day, which I tell people all the time. I should have known I was going to be in for a long ride to do that. And
Right.
I impress upon new inventors, and when I first met Lexa, is that this is not a road for the faint of heart, which he said to me also. But inventors are a pretty determined group that I find, and we kind of plow ahead. It's not for everyone, but we do plow ahead, and it's why we're on, certainly the things, the technology that's being done now, what Qualcomm has done and things like that. It's just the persistence of we might get good advice sometimes, but sometimes we have to find out the hard way sometimes.
Yeah, and the costs involved can be daunting, especially for individual inventors and small businesses. So they got to make the really tough choices, right? Where to
Yeah.
spend their money. So I do feel that, thanks, George. So let me ask you another one here. Let's say, you're an inventor sitting on a granted patent, but you're feeling stuck, right? Like, you don't know what to do next. Like, what are the common mistakes you see them making? Like, do you have any advice for them, George?
I think that they really haven't looked. They get stuck at different places. They've just awarded a patent. They're very excited. They're under the false pretenses, as you mentioned, is that someone's going to give you a lot of money because you have a patent. And that's been, let's say, what's been set out there for a lot of years. And it really gives people false hope that what they've done, although it's, a wonderful achievement, it is just the very first. That's like finding the first piece of land to build on. You have a long way to go before you're moving in anywhere. So I tell people to slow down a little bit. There's so many ways now to get information about what we do at New England Events. Is it better, easier, safer, value? But the last M about monetizing, manufacturability, and marketing, that's where they get stuck. They don't understand that what they're in for is still, a long road for them. It's education more than anything now. There are so many free ways, certainly Tipper now, to after you have that patent in hand, don't rush. Don't rush into things. Don't rush into get as much information. It's a ongoing education after the patent is issued that where most independent inventors, we don't get paid to come up with ideas for companies and things. So you make a mistake, it could take you years to recover from a financial mistake that I've made myself, and others who come to us have made that mistake because they just went a little too fast.
Here, right? Like, I think we should be glad that there are people like you, George, who are helping the independent inventors, and identifying those mistakes that hopefully can be caught early.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, the gap between, hey, I have a patent, and then I'm monetizing that patent, I'm making money from that patent, can feel enormous, right? So, Lexa, tell us some of the steps you took between those two milestones.
Sure. I mean, I want to emphasize that at least for me, maybe the strategy is different for others, but for me, that everything happened concurrently. So I was looking at market research. I was validating my customer. I was sending out surveys to see how much people would be willing to spend for this product that I had invented. I was collecting as much feedback as I possibly could. I was refining my pitch. I was pitching it to whoever I could find, whatever competition I could find locally and online, because this was during the pandemic when I had launched my product, or at least I was trying to bring it to market. I I want to say that when you get your patent, I don't want to paint the picture that it's the beginning of the process. It should be you're kind of traveling two parallel paths. If you're looking at a patent as the end game, then okay, then you're done. But for anybody who wants to create value from a patent, who wants to make money from the patent, it should be a step along the way that you're also doing other things at the same time. If you don't treat it that way, you could find yourself spending a lot of money upfront and learning from trial and error the hard way versus de-risking the situation, learning from people like me and George and others who have been there and done it, certainly through this TIPA course, and understanding that there's a sort of a process, a programmatic kind of approach to bringing a product to market. So hopefully
Yeah,
that answers your question, but there's so much more than
right.
just the patent that between those gaps and making money from it and getting it granted.
Right. And those steps, some of the steps you talked about, Lex, are really clearly explained by George,
Mhm.
Morris, and other folks at New England Invents in this course, right? So it really kind of, I feel like it structurally helps you with some of this dilemma that you're having. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Now, you still need luck. I mean, you got to see where
of course.
the market's got to be good, the economy's got to be good. You got to find, in my case, the right licensee. So luck plays a part, but there is a structured path. You can't wing it, in other words, and expect to have good results.
Indeed, yeah, a lot of hard work and some luck, right? Um, so let me ask one more process question. You know, sometimes big corporations like Qualcomm, I'm part of Qualcomm here. It might feel that we have the dibs on IP strategy because you know we tend to have bigger budgets and bigger legal teams, right? But
Mhm.
what would you say to an independent inventor or a small business owner that kind of feels like the world isn't really built for them, right? So like you know they can feel that struggle sometimes. So words of advice, you know, let's start with George and then Lexa. I think you're muted again, George.
Thank you. I'm sitting on a main thoroughfare here. So the patent system was started for individuals. There were no big corporations at the start of the patent system. You know, it was for individuals that were getting intellectual property. So I think that the world, at least that I think anyway, has been built on the independent inventor, whether their products start in a business of their own or they get licensed from a big corporation. I think it's the feeder system for everything. I think everybody has an idea. Certainly people I run into every day and find out what I do, they said, "Can I tell you my idea?" I said, "Yeah, you can, but I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't right now, and I'm going to tell you to, many things like that." But everybody has an idea. Everybody wants to see if they have the next widget to go forward with. Then maybe their life can change a little bit for wanting to do something better for their family. But when we take them into a course, and this course that I'm very excited about, just puts the brakes on a little bit of the understanding. I still think it's going to be the independent inventor that drives innovation in the world because it'll be from one of us or one of us to a Qualcomm or someone else that says, we hadn't thought of that. Maybe you should
Mhm.
let us take it from here and we'll do a nice deal with you and you get on to the next solution. So I think there'll always be innovation from the independent inventor. We hope to expand even afterwards when people take TIBA to continue on that, which always will be the continual learning for intellectual property ownership.
I read recently that independent inventors bring products to market at 1/12 the cost that big companies and corporations do. So you're as a big company, if you're overlooking an independent inventor, you're missing a huge innovation opportunity. And I'll say that back to George's point, you have independent inventors like those who created the battery and Tupperware and uh, products that we use every day now. So not only did these men and women create companies from these products, entire industries were born from independent inventors. So to say that patent strategy doesn't apply to independent inventors is short-sighted at best. I think that the key difference that I've seen is that companies use patents as sort of walls of defense, whereas independent inventors like me use them as a starting point for collaboration or partnership with companies. I am looking to license products, so this is my piece of land or intellectual property that I can rent to you and and we can both make money from. So that's the key distinction in my mind, but it's intellectual property is integral to both the independent inventor and the successful corporation.
Yeah, I love that. Both of you have amazing perspective on this, right? And I've read studies that the GDP of the United States, something like 60% comes from IP intensive industries. And so you can bet that that's not just a few corporations, right? That's a lot of small businesses, a lot of mom and pop shops are contributing to our GDP, and they all need to understand IP. I think George mentioned that, like, hey, if somebody wants to tell you your idea, at least you know they need to know that, like, disclosing your idea too soon can be harmful,
Yeah.
right? In getting your patent. So these kind of things, basic hygiene is taught by our courses. So I hope that the participants, the listeners will check them out. I'm going to hand it over now to Erin to talk for the next 10 minutes or so about the ecosystem. Go ahead, Erin.
Thanks, Ram. One thing that I really appreciated about this course is, in addition to going over these various business topics that both of you have touched on, it also stresses the importance of finding community around invention and the support that you can get from others. So I wanted to chat a little bit about that. So, George, you work with inventors at all stages, including Lexa during her journey. What's the pattern that you see in inventors who successfully commercialize versus ones who don't? Is it resources, mindset, access, capital, something else?
You can add a whole bunch more after that. It sometimes it's financial. I know for me, it was, family. I sit with a lot of people, and the first questions I ask them about what's your family situation? Is your family behind you doing this? Is your family behind you maybe taking money that you should be spending on something else, and following your dream here? That was critical in my part too, because although your family will be behind you in ideas, when it comes to money, they might not be as supportive as what you want to do going forward. So the stages are usually met with some sort of financial decision that they couldn't go any further, or they had to put a pause on it, which I say is okay. You have to pay the bills. I wanted to leave my very nice job I had and sell my product worldwide. And my wife told me that I'd probably be doing it from a different location if I did that, if I left my job, and that wouldn't be a very good idea to do. And thankfully, I didn't do that. Even though my product early on was a commercial success, small commercial success, would never have been sustainable for me, but it gave me a good education, my first product. So I don't know if it's, I don't think the mindset of it changes. I really don't.
Mhm.
I think someone's who creative is going to keep plugging at it, but life certainly gets in the way sometime of creative people, and they have to put something on the shelf for a while. And so it's time and money that usually stops people in their tracks.
Mhm. Um, what What does inventor support actually look like in practice? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at New England Invents and what should someone expect when they're walking into the door to an organization like yours?
Honesty
Mm,
is the first thing. It's critical in our business. Our business is an unregulated business. There are certainly people who would, I tell people when I first meet them, I said, look, there's going to be so many people with their hand in your pocket, you won't be able to get your own hand in there to get your money. So that's
mm,
right off the bat to make them aware of that, is that there's so many ways now to get good information out there without spending a lot of money. Free resources like the one we're promoting today, I think is the tip of the spear going forward, because now at least in my 25 years, the information has been siloed off everywhere. Now we're making it streamlined, that the education becomes streamlined to get so much more information before you get started. And we try to impress upon that. Do your due diligence. Do as much prior art search as you can for free before you start spending money. And then when you go to pick attorneys, there are free resources out there through the pro bono system for legal help. There are law firms that put themselves out there for free legal help. And early on, that will be someone's biggest challenges, will be finding the money for legal services that is critical in starting out. So that's where we start them. And we see people at different stages of development, from the early stages to I have an idea, or I have a patent, now what do I do with it, to I want to license this, or I'm taking the path, I want to make it, and I want to make it into a business. So we're able to help people in all different stages of that. We sit with them, Lexa sat with them. We have other inventors that are part of the course that everybody will see are experienced now because they've been through the process. They're what we call battle tested now, and we tell them stories from our own experience, but we're honest with them. We're not going to have our hand in their pocket taking their money. So that puts them at ease very quickly.
Thank you, George. I think the honesty piece goes back quite a bit to, how does a person develop trust in a kind of organization like yours, or any that an inventor is going to be working with throughout their commercialization journey. So I'm going a little off script here, but Lexa, what in your experience working with George and New England Invents, like what kind of promulgated the trust that you had? Because clearly, you've been working together for a long time and you had that support. How did you know that this was a good organization to work with?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to see that George is extremely forthright and trustworthy from the jump when you first meet him. And if you compare the kind of advice you get from a George to some of the other groups out there, it's night and day. A lot of other invention help or coaching will require that you pay money up front, and then you kind of go through a course to sort of get your product to the next level. There's no talk about, okay, you really ought to probably abandon this idea and look at another idea because this does not have any shot at commercial success. There's none of that. If your check clears, you're in the program, and that should be a red flag. I'm not suggesting that people shouldn't make money helping others, mentoring or advising. I'm just saying that there's got to be the piece of that honesty piece that says to you, I appreciate you coming to me for advice, but that's not a good idea. You should look at some of your other ideas. And most of us inventors have a lot of different ideas. So it's not a bad thing early on to just abandon one idea early, put it to the side and go down another road. So that's one thing. And number two, it's just it's lonely. It's a lonely road to be an independent inventor because there aren't a lot of resources that are publicly available. There isn't a lot written about how to, there's so much in the way of startup support and entrepreneurship help and this and that through SCORE and Small Business Association, and also lots of private groups and accelerators, but there's not a lot in the way of real experienced veteran help for independent inventors. And when you find it, like you do at New England Invents, it's kind of like it's like a lighthouse. You automatically are like, this is what I was looking for. So it's apparent. Let's put it that way when you go to New England Invents.
Great. Thank you. That's something that can be really challenging because there are so many organizations out there and, there are varying degrees of how good they are at building that trust. So, thanks for that kind of practice of it. Rob, I'm going to hand it over to you for our last section about the course and what's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. It is sobering to hear some of the things that George is talking about. I mean, that's the reality of small business that, and I'm sure they appreciate the honesty they're getting from you, George. I also know you help veterans. I really, I'm proud of that fact. I mean, I think that's another section of our community that, that we should be proud to help, right? But let me close here with a couple of questions about the course itself. So we've got an audience for this webinar, and we really want them to check out the course. Maybe talk about like one thing they might find in your course that they're not getting anywhere else. Maybe start with George there.
For what I found is that it makes it legitimate now. It makes it legitimate is that this is a free course. It's easy to understand. It's easy to be followed. You can take it on your own time. It's not, you have to finish it in 3 months and they mark you on it. This is a life's journey being an independent inventor. So to finally have something that we can now offer to people saying, do this first, and then is it a go or no go for you after you've taken TIPA and understand what the challenges are some people face, and is it a go, no go? Very important that they take this first and then make it to a New England event or another, like we call it, certified group that can keep you on the journey from there. So I think being able to have it now, there was a lot of work put into this by a lot of people, the Invent Together people, Qualcomm, the inventors from New England Invents who told their story. Ram, you mentioned about people in the military. We made an effort now to be able to offer the services of certainly TIPA and New England events to men and women that are transitioning out of the military. We have wonderful ideas. Don't get to share those ideas in the military because the military is in a different, they're not in the for-profit or make companies that look for innovation. Can you save a company money or you can make them money? So we have a military advisory board to help us, and we want to get this course in front of as many people who are leaving, with there's hundreds of thousands leaving every year, to be able to offer them the course of saying, here's a good starting point for you. Don't start your business yet if you want to put it on with intellectual property with your business. Take TIPA first and then come to us, and then we'll be able to help you from there. So very important, Ram. I'm glad you mentioned that about the work we started doing a couple of years ago with men and women transitioning out of the military.
Thanks, George. Qualcomm also helps a lot of independent startups through our programs, both in the US and elsewhere. But that's a group that I would like to work more with, right? But we're a little short on time here. Lexa, I'm gonna let you take the last question. What again, thinking about the audience who is in this webinar, if they take this course and complete it, what is something, a realistic outcome that they can expect maybe in the next like 12 months?
Yeah, I think that each product is different, each industry is different. So there's no real broad brush I can paint, but I can say that most importantly, you're going to arm yourself with the tools that you need to understand your particular industry and your particular audience, whoever that is, or your pathway, whether it's bringing it to market yourself or via a licensee. So it again, I go back to this course de-risks the process in that it's going to give you that information so you don't have to learn by trial and error because it's just too expensive to do it that way. This is not something where you just kind of, wing it and hope that this the particular patent that you filed is going to get you to the next level. You need to have your ducks in a row and understand that this is a disciplined kind of approach that you have to take. And this class, it just paints a very clean step-by-step kind of process to getting you to where you want to go. Wherever that outcome is, it will be an outcome that is well informed.
Wonderful, thank you. I think because of the time, I think we'll leave it there, and maybe we'll save some time for the audience questions. But I think over to you, Erin and Stephanie.
Thank you, everyone. So let me turn it over to Erin to talk about the Inventors Patent Academy courses.
Thanks, Stephanie. The Inventors Patent Academy currently has 3 courses. Our first course, the Comprehensive Guide to Patenting, has been out for several years. It has 3 modules and goes into depth so that course students will come out knowing the processes, the people involved, the concepts, to be able to advocate for yourself throughout the process, particularly with working with IP professionals, so that you get all the protection that you can possibly have. Our second course is Patent Essentials. As it says here, it's an accelerated version of our comprehensive guide. It's a jump start to the patents and the patenting process, and does also go over how to work with IP professionals, since that's such an important component. And then finally, our new course that we're here today to discuss is Creating Value from Your Patents. So that's really around the commercialization of your invention. As we've discussed, the patent is something that grants you some rights around your product, but it's not a guarantee for you to be able to get that solution to the market, so that people can have their problems solved. So this course goes into various lessons about different components of business, so that you're able to take your patent and do all that groundwork that Lexa and George were talking about over the course of the webinar. Stephanie, I think let's turn it over to audience questions. I want to make sure that we have time for that.
Perfect. Love it. All right. So questions from the audience. This one goes out to Lexa and George. Did either of you go through a pilot program for your inventions? And if you did, if you could please elaborate.
Actually, you want to go first?
I wish there had been a pilot program for me to go through, but no, everything's sort of real life while you're doing it, at least right now. I like that idea, and that's something that probably George at New England Events could adapt into some sort of interactive kind of training. See how much work I'm adding to your plate, George? But I think it's a great idea. Some sort of simulation. There are some. There's like Make 48 and that's like a TV show where you get inventors in a room to kind of solve a product, and you prototype it, and there's cool things like that. But as far as I'm aware, there's no real pilot program that you could take advantage of, but it certainly would be helpful.
And if I can interject here, the Inventors Patent Academy has an extensive resource hub that has other organizations out there, entrepreneurship support organizations, sources of free legal help, other information, resources on various aspects of the patent process. So that is another benefit of being involved in TIPA, is being able to see all of those things curated in one place.
Yeah, one quick thing, George, before you say this, is that there's invention learning, through Lemelson, MIT, and other groups like that. This curriculum teaches people to think like inventors, to think like entrepreneurs, and that in a way is a pilot program, and that it gives you the tools so that you're equipped to sort of take this journey, and you understand the process involved. And as part of that, you'll do prototyping, and you'll pitch, and you'll do stuff like that. That I wish something like that had been available when I was a kid, because it's It's invaluable, no matter what field you go into, to think like that, to think like a problem solver.
I had to look up to see what USPTO meant back in the day. I didn't even know what that meant when I started in the mid 1990s. So um, there was not even a pilot light on for myself. So it was very, very difficult. And then now there's so much information to choose from. You don't know where
Mhm.
it's you're traveling in a snowstorm, at night. That's how it is for a lot of people because there's so much information out there. You don't know what the truth is or where it can be validated, your idea. So the idea of a pilot program, try to get to a place where they won't be trying somebody to try to stick their hand in your pocket and take your money. That's the first thing right off the bat. Right then and there, that's a good first pilot project. I would say, if somebody says that you have to give them money first before they help you, turn around and run.
Mm. I have a question. Lexa, I'm so curious to hear about, maybe some of the unexpected use cases for your product that you've come across.
Yeah, so first, really quickly, what my product is a trunk organizer for SUVs, CUVs, and minivans. So imagine a shelf that hangs off the rear seat of your SUV that you open up the hatch and it's like a divider. So it subdivides the height and gives you extra space up above the trunk floor to store smaller items. Um, so I initially thought, oh, okay, well, sports gears, groceries, for people who work, out of their car, like occupational therapists, like there's tools and various gear would go there. I never thought about fishermen. And I
Mm,
got a review on Amazon about how a father took his son fishing and used Cargo Caddy as a workstation to rig up fishing pools.
mm,
So it was like
mm,
a built-in place for them to get all their stuff ready before they headed down to the lake to go fishing. So I thought that was neat. I've gotten a couple other reviews like that just opened my eyes to kind of a different avenue that the licensee and I could start to heavily promote. RVs was another one. Someone said, "Hey, is this the type of product you could put in that RV basement, like the sort of storage
mm,
areas underneath?" And I said, "Absolutely. You could use it as a workstation. You could use it as a place because they're so deep, those RV storage areas." So just starts to get you to think about different ways to use the product, and it's always evolving. It's always there's a common misconception that when you license your product, you sign the agreement, you walk away, and you just get passive income. That has not been the case with me at all. I've been actively involved since the signing.
mm. Thank you.
Mhm.
Nice work, everyone. Well, thank you, George, Lexa, Aaron, and Ram, and to all who attended today. We'll be sharing a link to the webinar in the coming days. And also, if you could go ahead and scan our QR code on this screen, it'll take you to our newly renovated TIPA website where you can register for our free online learning platform. You can also follow us on LinkedIn at Invent Together or join our email list to be notified of our next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.